What's going on, ladies, gents, and kids of all ages? It is Eric coming back at you once again from the Nerd Cave, and today I am very excited to talk about a deck list that's an update of a deck list I came out with last set that ended up getting tweaked by another player and going on to win a pretty big profile tournament. So I love this deck list. This is one that got talked about quite a bit at that time. It didn't necessarily catch on, but this is the most Diabolical Ruby Amethyst, and how I'd kind of update that going into this set. It's got a lot of great new cards in Reign of Jafar, so we're going to talk about some of those cards and how the strategy has kind of changed and how it stayed the same. But if you like that deck list, you like Ruby Amethyst, you like to see Ruby Amethyst do something different and actually be competitive again, stick around to see what there is going on in this video. But before we jump into that, as always, I have to give a big shout out to the Patreons for making the giveaways on the channel possible. Could not keep any of this going without you guys, so thank you so much for the people who take the time to subscribe to the Patreon and donate. There is as low as $1 tier that gets you added onto there, so if you want to support the channel, now is a great time to do so. We've got another big giveaway coming at you very soon. I think we're like 20 some odd subscribers away, so if you haven't subscribed, slap that subscribe button. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the most Diabolical Ruby Amethyst. So the first card, and one of my favorite throwbacks for people who have been around the channel for a while, you know this card is near and dear to my heart, is going to be Olaf Friendly Snowman, a 1-cost inkable 1/3 stat line questing for 1. It's really just his stat line that makes him great in this deck with some of the shenanigans we're trying to do, and we got another great addition in terms of stat line and those shenanigans in Palace Guard, a 1-cost inkable 1/4 stat line questing for 1. However, this character has vanished, so if he is targeted by any action by your opponent, he is going to get removed. Keep in mind that is only by your opponent. You can target him with your own actions. Next up, a card I have a hard time just like not playing in Amethyst because it's probably still one of the best cards in the game. Super glad this card's not rotating out, and that is going to be Diablo Obedient Raven, a 1-cost inkable 0/1 stat line questing for 1. Simply with the ability when he's banished, you get to draw a card, so he is always replacing himself and probably gaining you some lore because he draws you a card. Sometimes your opponents don't want to banish him. They're like, you could get a worse threat than Diablo, and I don't want to deal with that. Jumping over to the 2-cost slot, we are on for Queen of Hearts, Losing Her Temper, a 2-cost inkable 1/4 stat line questing for 1. However, once she has some damage on her, she is going to be getting +3, making her a 4/4 stat line. So if you can challenge into something, put some damage on it, put some damage on her, even if you're not banishing it, she is sitting there as a 4/4 defender at that point, which is always pretty funny. Card I bought foils of like right away. I think the card's really good. Next up, we have 3 Mother Gothel, Withered and Wicked, a 2-cost inkable 3/4 stat line questing for 1. With this character enters play with 3 damage on her, so she ostensibly enters play as a 3/1 due to that damage, but if you can heal her up somehow, she becomes a 3/4. Next up in the 2-cost slot, a card I personally think is vastly underutilized in Amethyst decks is Raja Ghostly Tiger, a 2-cost inkable 3/3 stat line questing for 1. Much like that Palace Guard, Raja does have Vanish. If he is the target of an opponent's action, he is going to get banished, but there's just not that many actions out there that are going to be a favorable trade in terms of ink cost at a 2-cost card. So I think Raja is really good. It's like Fire the Cannons, maybe something that's sung, but even those cards cost 3. I don't know. I think Raja is really getting overlooked. Next up, part of what makes this deck work, and a card that I'm very sad is rotating out, a card that isn't 100% necessary to the strategy, but really makes the deck have a lot more legs and be a lot more not only consistent but flexible in different situations, is going to be Teeth and Ambitions, a 2-cost inkable action song. So you can sing it with any of those 2-cost characters. We've got some really strong ones in there, and any character with a higher cost than that, and deal 2 damage to a chosen character of yours to deal 2 damage to another chosen character. Like I mentioned, when you target your own characters, it is not going to banish them if they have Vanish. So you can put that 2 damage on one of those Palace Guards, or onto that Olaf, or onto that Raja, the Queen of Hearts, to make her even stronger. So you have a lot of great targets in the early game on your side of the board that are actually going to let you really take advantage of Teeth and Ambitions. Next up, a card I got foils of right away. I think this is another card that's getting kind of slept on. Is really good in some different strategies. Really good in Ruby Amber. Really good in Ruby Amethyst. Potentially could be good in other Ruby lists that I have not attempted it in yet. I think the thing that's keeping people from playing this card is the fact that it is uninkable, which doesn't always make it as flexible as you may want it to be, unless you're playing something like Sapphire with it, where you would still have the ability to ink it with a couple of the cards that you have available to you. But we have Prince John, Fraidy Cat, a 3-cost uninkable 5 5 stat line, questing for 1. Crazy good stat line. Whenever an opponent plays a character, deal 1 damage to this character. So whenever your opponent throws down an opposing character, he is going to be taking 1 damage. However, if there are some things that you could do to potentially take advantage of that, that make that not so bad for you. And he's a villain, like many of the other characters in this deck. Speaking of villains in our deck, we have 4 Madam Mim Fox, a great way to wipe damage off of a character in an emergency if you need to, with her ability when you play this character, banish her or return chosen character of yours to your hand. So whenever she's coming down, you're going to be bouncing something in your hand, but she's a 3-cost inkable 4/3 stat line, questing for 1. She does also have rush, so as soon as she comes into play, she's going to be taking some favorable challenges. This is a card that's very down in price right now, particularly for the non-foil version. So if you don't have Mim Fox, I think it's a great time to get them. They're still going to be playable in Infinity, and we still don't know what is going to get reprinted going into the next set. Is it likely that they reprint Fox with her being such a menace in the meta? I personally don't think so, but I do think it would be cool, especially now that we have things like Rhino. I think maybe if they reprint one, it would probably just be Snake. Next up, also in the 3-cost slot, we have the 3-cost inkable 1/4 stat line Mother Gothel Vein Sorceress. She is questing for 1, but questing is not what's important. What's important is her ability. Her ability is very central to this deck. It's another card that I think has been largely overlooked, even though having a lot of potential in this particular style of Ruby Amethyst list. She really doesn't have a house anywhere else, but in this type of Ruby Amethyst, she is super good and can do some shenanigans things. So whenever one of your characters challenges, you may move 1 damage counter from chosen character, so any character on the board with a damage counter on it, to chosen opposing characters. So you can't move it to your own characters, so she's not going to let you move damage onto like your Queen of Hearts per se to be able to activate her ability, but she is going to let you move damage away from your characters. And I think what's really neat about this ability in particular is it's whenever one of your characters challenges. So the way that that's worded, that's actually going to be triggering before damage is being dealt. So you're going to be challenging, moving that damage, and then dealing damage, which is definitely relevant in the sense that if you only have 1 legal target, you don't want your character to take damage and they have 1 health left, you can go ahead and move 1 damage to them. That character is banished and no longer deals damage in that challenge, even though that challenge counted as occurring. So try to take all that in. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. But the way that Mother Gothel is worded and the way that that ability triggers can make her very good. Next up, just a great way to draw cards. Still a card that I think is a staple in the meta until it rotates out, unless it gets reprinted, is going to be Friends on the Other Side, a 3-cost inkable action song. Draw 2 cards, great way to draw some extra cards. It's a card that I think if it doesn't get reprinted and some of those other great draw engine cards don't get reprinted, we're going to see cards like Show Me More and Amethyst Chromicon in the Amethyst area, specifically really going up in price. So if those are cards you don't own, now's a great time to get them. They're fairly inexpensive. Even the Enchanted Show Me More is still fairly inexpensive in my opinion in terms of enchanteds. Next up, we have 2 The Most Diabolical Scheme. This is part of what this deck was kind of designed to do. There's a lot of villains inside of the deck. We are reducing the count of these because we're less geared into this strategy specifically, and they are uninkable. And we've added things going into set 8 like Prince John Frady Cat, so we had to reduce our uninkable count somewhere. But the Most Diabolical Scheme is a great card. It is a 3-cost inkable action song. Banish chosen villain of yours to banish chosen character. So if you have a villain that's about to die anyway, you can go ahead and take advantage of them, sometimes singing it, because like I mentioned, this is a song, to sing it, banish themselves, and then banish your opposing character that is maybe too big of a threat for you to deal with otherwise, something like a Tamatoa or a Maui shark or something. Next up, still in the 3-cost slot, we have For the Library, a Gift for Belle, a 3-cost inkable location, 1 to move in, 8 willpower, gaining you 1 passive lore at the beginning of each of your turns, and whenever a character is banished while here, you may go ahead and draw a card. So gonna let you further take advantage of your characters taking damage, getting banished, by letting you draw some additional cards and continue to fuel your board. Here's a card I haven't really seen getting played really anywhere. And I think it's pretty funny. It is inkable if it's not going to be good, but I think in some situations it can be really good, especially with your cheap, strong characters, high willpower characters, and that is going to be Aladdin Intrepid Commander, a 4-cost inkable 1/4 stat line, quest for 2 himself, shift for 2. We're not playing a shift target for it, so we're not really taking advantage of that, but if you are playing an Aladdin deck where he can shift in 2 shift is super reasonable, especially with questing for 2 and the additional ability. When you play this character, your characters get +2 strength this turn, so all other characters, or really him as well, so if you are shifting him in, he is going to affect himself also, but all of your characters are going to be getting +2 strength, all of a sudden letting you take some very favorable challenges. Next up, also in the 4-cost slot, we have 2 Iago Giant Spectral Parrot, a 4-cost inkable 4/6 stat line. You heard me right, crazy stat line. Evasive, so great way to deal with opposing evasive threats, or just to get some cheeky quests in. And he does also have Vanish, so if he's targeted by your opponent's actions, he is going to get banished, so it does make him a little bit weaker. That's why we are only playing 2, and you know, in this matchup when he's not going to be great, you just go ahead and ink him. If you do need to remove damage from something in an emergency, we do have our uh-oh button in Bell Accomplished Mystic, a 5-cost inkable 4/4 stat line, questing for 2, shifting for 3. You've heard me say it once, you'll hear me say it 100 times. We're not looking to shift her. Shifting her is not necessary. I do think there's potential in Blurple to shift her onto the other bell that comes in on an item. I think that could be a pretty funny strategy in that deck list that people haven't really explored, and maybe we'll talk about that more in the future. But with when you play this character, move up to 3 damage counters from chosen character to chosen opposing character. So she is going to let you get 3 damage off in a hurry and potentially banish an opposing character. Keep in mind, moving damage is going to circumvent resist, so if the opposing character has resist, you can get around that. Our other way to deal with those evasive threats is going to be 3 Elsa the Fifth Spirit, a 5-cost inkable 2/5 stat line, questing for 1 with rush and evasive, and when you play this character, exert chosen opposing character. So just a slurry of good abilities all wrapped into one excellent character with Elsa the Fifth Spirit. Our other main rush character, and keep in mind, like I mentioned with that Gothel, rush can be really super good because Gothel is going to let you move that damage before damage is being dealt, which can create some shenanigans, particularly when you start talking about your big bada boom. You're going to see a lot of people going into that turn 7 expecting be prepared. They're going to probably quest out thinking their characters are going to die anyway, and then you throw down a Scar, and you know, you're not blowing up your board, you're just blowing up their board, because Scar is a 7-cost uninkable 6/5 stat line, questing for 2. He does have rush, so he's going to challenge as soon as he comes down, and during your turn, whenever he banishes another character in a challenge, he may ready, and he can't quest for the rest of the turn. So he is only going to be challenging, he's not going to be questing when he's readying back up, but he is going to potentially come down and wipe out opposing boards. And I know I sound like a broken record, but with those Gothels on board, especially if you have a couple of them on board, it can be really crazy because you can challenge with Scar, move damage off one of your other characters if you have another damage character, banish something, ready him, and then when you challenge again, you can move 1 damage for every Gothel you have him play off of him before he takes more damage, then he takes more damage, then you ready him, potentially banishing another character, and so on and so forth. Continue to move the damage, ready him, etc. So he can really let you wipe out a board, which is pretty crazy. Scar is a very good card in this deck list particularly, and like I mentioned, people are expecting Be Prepared, so they're not always going to be playing around that Scar. In fact, they may end up playing into it, trying to avoid a Be Prepared. So Scar, very funny. But what do you guys think of the most Diabolical Ruby Amethyst in its current form? Do you think it's in a good spot? Do you think it is worse than it was last set? Do you think it is vastly improved? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Are there cards you think I should play that I didn't play, or cards that you think have no place in the list because they're just not that good? Let me know your opinion. Always love to hear it. And like I mentioned, if you're not subscribed, great time to do so. Giveaways coming soon, and if you want to check out that Patreon and support the channel, it means a ton to us. The link is in the description. But remember, when you see those toys, video games, and awesome Diabolical decks featuring the very cool Mother Gothel moving damage off in the distance, remember, it is not a mirage. You guys have a great day.